I would be keen on finding more about what do you want to find out about the baboons, for example. What is some burning question that you were like, I want to find this. This is kind of very, very interesting, and it will be beneficial to know this. What would be this kind of a topic or problem?
For me, it's really the co-evolution of these different traits. So if you would set up a computational model of a baboon society, and then you would start cranking one of the screws, what does it mean for the rest of the system? Yeah, I think we have a verbal model in our head, what is going on, how all these variables are affecting one another, and how the payoff matrices of different decisions change, both ontogenetically and over evolutionary times. If we could model this would be super interesting to test some of these hypotheses we have about the links between the different elements of the society, from disposition to affiliate to representation of your social environment. So I don't have this one thing that I want to find out. I want to find out what the whole thing is.
So you're more on the macro scale, rather, because we are kind of prompt to think about, okay, we want to see this protein that does this and this. And you're more about the cognition.
Yeah, it's like ballooning, I started with, can they perceive a difference between call A and call B, and how do they deal with graded variation that are super subtle, and so now it's kind of, maybe that's the way you go with either age or experience, I don't know, or both. I think the differences between the societies and what it means to everything else. And then of course this is a feedback system, because when you behave differently, that affects the society. So how to understand these feedback dynamics between the unit, the individual that's behaving and processing information and signaling. So you have decision making, you have behavior control, motor planning, if you will, and perception and all of this. And how can we understand the feedback loops between the element and the whole thing?
This is very interesting, and I think it's very hard, though.
Yeah.
It's very tough. We will have to have a little bit more patience, perhaps, to have the tools even to study this kind of concept.
Yeah, it's not trivial, but if you one thing at a time, and I think we have made some progress. I think there are some ideas out there, for instance, about variation between species. And there's the dominant paradigm, for a long time has been the socio-ecological model. And it was proposed in the 1960s and then forever refined, it became more complex. So the basic idea is it's almost like Marxist, So how you sustain yourself will determine what matters to you, and das Sein bestimmt das Bewusstsein, So in monkey or primate parlance, you would say the subsistence mode creates the type of society, the competition patterns, the bonding patterns, etc. And for the baboons, Dietmar Zinner, who also works in our group, he led this big comparative study where he looked at the habitat characteristics, food availability, precipitation, everything, and the social characteristics, and there's no correlation. So we could really rule out this idea that the socio-ecological model explains the variation between baboon societies. And I think that's a big step, to really say, we know this is not the explanatory variable, so there's something else going on, and the question is, what is it? And so there are different ideas. One is that it had something to do with the range expansion, which is a big topic in evolutionary biology, is like how do range expansion of species or bacterial strains. So what happens at the edge? Because you have very specific evolutionary dynamics at the edge of a population. So that's one idea. Another is, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, is that it depends on the population density. So that if you are surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of baboons or thousands everywhere, baboons everywhere, it's not profitable for males to fight one another anymore. And that's my pet idea, is to say, okay, it's actually not so much the range expansion, it's more probably population density is an important kicker to the impulse, basically, to get this change in the system going.